It wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about momentum. The WNBA had been experiencing a strong upswing, with ratings rising, national headlines flooding in, and a level of mainstream attention the league had long fought to achieve. However, the momentum slowed when Caitlin Clark suffered an injury, and the energy surrounding the Fever Games changed. Without her on the court, the offense lost its identity, the spacing tightened, the passing lanes vanished, and the freedom they once played with collapsed into hesitation over several games. They managed only one victory, and each performance looked more disjointed than the last time Clark wasn't just their point guard. She was the force behind everything, so when she came back into the lineup, it meant much more than a minutes restriction or a stat sheet. Fans came with hope. The lights felt a little brighter, but as soon as Indiana started to find their rhythm again, things took a turn for the worse. The defense tightened. The Liberty brought physicality to possessions, more aggressive elbows, and sharper space, and it was harder to find. Then, as Clark was navigating through traffic, she took a hit straight to the face. What happened next wasn't just another highlight reel. It wasn't just a player bouncing back from contact. There was a different type of silence before tip-off when she reminded everyone who was watching who she truly is. It wasn't nervous or uncertain, just the kind that falls before a storm. Whether you loved Caitlin Clark or couldn't stand her, you wanted to see what she would do next. The Liberty started with Sabrina Ionescu, who appeared completely unfazed as she came off a high screen, faked right, turned left, and drained a turnaround jumper like she'd done it 1,000 times. It was a flawless play from a player who thrives on attention, but Indiana didn't let them down. Clark set the tone early, not with a deep three or a showy play, but rather with a pass that only Estelle Mitchell-Kelsey. At the top of the key, she attacked with a quick in-and-out move and floated the ball softly off the glass, making her first basket since returning. It looked effortless, with no limp or hesitation, just confidence. Then came the transition moment that reminded everyone who she is. Her vision hadn't missed a beat as she slipped behind the defense and delivered a perfect bounce pass that led straight to the bucket. Boston took 2 strong steps and grabbed the rebound. The audience exploded as Clark, who had already watched the play unfold from over 60 feet away, blasted a precise pass down court that fell directly into Boston's hands for the finish. And the Liberty appeared a little less at ease, but New York continued to respond. Ionescu continued her into a transition 3 with no one within 10 feet. Indiana had given her too much room, so she forced them to pay Breanna Stewart. She then added to the run by throwing a full-court dart to Ionescu, who finished smoothly with her left hand. The Liberty lead was increasing, and Indiana needed a response, and Mitchell provided it by breaking the run with a cold-blooded ISO drive, blowing past defenders and finishing strong. It wasn't flashy, but it was necessary, and it gave the Fever a moment to breathe. Sophie Cunningham checked in next, and she made her presence known right away. She read a lazy pass perfectly, jumped the lane, and took it coast to coast for 2. The bench exploded, and the momentum was shifting. Stewart tried to calm the crowd with a difficult fadeaway in the post, but Caitlin Clark decided to take control of the game. She isolated her defender with a quick rhythm dribble, spun off the contact, and finished through it. When she stepped to the line, she didn't blink, and she was here to create noise, not to coast, and she had fire in her eyes. Johannes attempted to match the intensity by making a long-range basket of her own, but Clark had no interest in trading baskets. She immediately came down, pulled up from the logo, and let the ball fly. The roar in the building was deafening, and she wasn't done yet. She broke down her defender again, danced behind the arc, and made yet another three-pointer, giving her 14 points for the quarter and total control of the pace. The Liberty held a slim lead, but the first quarter ended with a clear Caitlin. Not only was Clark back, but she was becoming hot, and nobody could predict what was going to happen. Not even the Liberty. Indiana continued to score throughout the transition. In the midst of the turmoil, New York scrambled corpses flying across the floor and left the one player saying, "You simply do not leave." The energy throughout the building immediately changed as Caitlin Clark slipped into clear space on the wing, grabbed the pass clean, and soared up. The shot was certain to hit nothing but net for the first time all night. Sabrina Ionescu didn't let it stay long, so she sized up. The season play that demonstrates poise when the game heats up was Cunningham in the post, who slowly backed her down before leaning into a challenging fadeaway that still struck the bottom of the goal. Conversely, Indiana kept revealing defensive shortcomings. Once more, Kelsey Mitchell discovered the back door wide open, cutting hard as her defender ball watched for a moment. The pass struck her in stride, and she finished strong. The bench stood up as the whistle blew, and the rhythm of the Fever began to click once more. It seemed as though both teams were trading haymakers now rather than merely shots, and the momentum never remained in one spot for very long before the fans erupted once more. Natasha Cloud responded by squeezing through the paint and hitting Sabali for a simple layup. With Breanna Stewart in front of her, Caitlin Clark found herself alone. Calmly assessing her, she retreated into the open area far beyond the arc and set it off. When the ball fell, the crowd erupted. Stewart looked at her and grinned in shock. Clark couldn't help but break one back. There was no need for words, but Clark wasn't done yet. On the very next possession, she opened up space at the top, drew two defenders, and then dished it perfectly to Lexi Hall, who knocked down the open three. Now that she had the Fever dancing, every move she made twisted the defense, and every pass became a threat. The Liberty attempted to slow things down, and they responded with a classic give-and-go between Stewart and herself. It worked. With just over 4 minutes remaining in the half, the tone of the evening abruptly changed. Clark was walking down the lane when Natasha Cloud, who was fighting for space, swung her arm back, causing Clark to flush. She immediately stepped back, clearly shaken, and the play stopped. The noise in the arena changed from excitement to anger. Clark didn't fight back, but her face said it all. Wasn't the first time she had been hit. It was beginning to feel too familiar. However, where's some PLA? As the defense collapsed towards her, Clark used the same behind-the-back motion, but this time it wasn't to score. She found Aaliyah Boston in the short roll, caught it, looked around the floor, and kicked it to the corner where Lexi Hall was waiting. What happened next defied explanation. Kelsey Mitchell fed her from the wing, and without hesitation, Clark let another bomb fly from well beyond the three-point line. This one dropped like all the others, her 6th three of the half, and her 25th. Half, although the hit may have been unintentional, the moment that will never be forgotten was when Ionescu delivered a second dagger to keep it close, pulling up from deep and burying it to draw the Liberty within 3. She then ignited the entire game on fire. Natasha Cloud delivered the first blow as New York attempted to regain momentum in the second half. She used a deft spin move to shake her defender and finished cleanly at the rim, giving the Liberty the boost they needed. Ionescu maintained the pressure after a brief series of passes, and the ball returned to her hands at the top of the arc. She rose confidently and dropped another 3, bringing her total to 22 points. Despite the indisputable rhythm, Indiana didn't bat an eye. Mitchell launched an attack right away, cutting Ionescu off the dribble and making contact on the finish. This type of reaction ends a run before it even begins. When Caitlin Clark returned her job in transition, she looked around the floor and noticed Lexi hull up on the wing, where she made a flawless pass. Another 3 for the Fever. Aaliyah was Hull's shot. Boston then made her own statement, using the short roll to make a fast pass. For a seamless finish, the defender was taken straight to the rim after being fake frozen. Clark wasn't finished yet. Indiana's offense was booming once more when she pushed the ball in transition and outran her defender with a quick burst of speed. And made a mistake by going under the screen on the very next play after scooping in a layup, as if she were floating. The Fever were leading 17-0 when Stewart finally ended the drought by using her size to her advantage. She posted up a smaller defender and spun into a soft jumper that found the net, but Indiana remained sharp, and Carlson was left alone in the corner and calmly knocked down the open 3. She had 30 points and had stepped into a 3 and buried it for her 7th of the night. The Liberty were still scurrying. With a shot that bounced on the rim before falling through, Ionescu attempted to respond. Then, pressing in transition, she discovered Johannes on the wing, who made the three-pointer to cut into the advantage, and Ionescu made another three-pointer off the inbounds shortly before the quarter ended, bringing her to 27 points. However, the Liberties started the fourth quarter with urgency, Marine. When the double came, she calmly kicked it out to Carlson, leaving him alone on the perimeter. Carlson stepped into the shot and buried the three as the Fever continued to press Boston, who was now fully in control. Johannes drove hard to the rim and finished with a smooth layup in an attempt to spark a final push, but Indiana had no intention of letting their momentum slip. On the following trip, Boston went to work herself, powering through contact in the paint for the bucket and the foul. She sank the free throw, and Indiana's lead continued to grow. Mitchell continued to thrive in the pick and roll, coming off a screen, stopping abruptly at the elbow, and then, just minutes later, rejecting the screen completely, stepping back, and making a high-arcing three. It was a run full of control and precision. Caitlin Clark then attacked the lane, blowing past Breanna Stewart with a quick first step. Her scoop attempt rolled off, but Boston was there to clean it up, grabbing the rebound and drawing the foul. Ensuring that Indiana maintains the momentum on the next possession once more, Clark read the defense flawlessly. Clark made a flawless pass into Hall's path as she slipped the back door on the baseline. Hall collected it in stride and laid it in with ease, and then there was another surgical possession. As she looked for an opening, Clark cut through the defense, keeping her dribble alive. Eventually, she found Mitchell by himself in the corner, another flawless look. Boston kept making the right reads, this time finding Cunningham wide open in the corner. She let it fly, and it hit nothing but net, giving the Fever a 16-point lead and ensuring victory. Another mid-range jumper was hit by Sabrina Ionescu. Caitlin Clark, who finished with 32 points, 9 assists, and 7 made threes, was the driving force behind the Indiana Fever's 102-88 victory over Boston, which was not enough as the final minute passed quietly and the buzzer sounded. The Indiana Fever crossed the 100-point mark for the first time this season. Every significant moment was marked by her fingerprints, but this game was more about what happened after the pressure and contact after she was struck in the face than it was about the box score because she didn't flinch, lose concentration, or let it shake her. Instead, she responded in the only way she knew how to take the hit, and then took. Throughout the